Coronavirus continues to cause havoc and sleepless nights for entrepreneurs and small businesses. So what can they do to keep their businesses going through this crisis? Join me to find out. Hi, hello, welcome to my channel, Kingdom Business Sense. I'm Anita Wiafe-Asinor of OML Africa, an entrepreneur and a HR and business consultant. So, COVID-19 continues to give us headaches and sleepless nights. What can entrepreneurs and small businesses do in order to keep going throughout this crisis? In my COVID business survival tactics, this is precisely the area I'm going to be focusing on. Tactics and survival tips and guides. When COVID-19 first began, we didn't really know what it was about and we were all very reactive to the situation. But some months have gone on now and we've been told that we should expect a vaccination in the next 18 months. So this means that as businesses, we have to coexist with COVID-19 until a vaccine is found. This is not an easy task, and therefore we have to have a plan. So the first tactic I'm going to talk about in this video is planning. You have to have a plan, all right? Very, very important. Before you start your plan, you may want to take a moment to have a panic attack. I know you're thinking, what's she on about? Yes, you may want to take some time out to kind of reflect on how you feel about the whole situation. Get all your anxieties, all your stress out. Whether you're a manager, a CEO, whether you're the founder, the business owner, have this moment. It really helps. I had one of these moments early on in April, and it really helped me to get rid of a lot of emotional baggage and anxiety so that I could focus on a good plan to keep my businesses going. All right, so you panic, then after you finish panicking or reflecting or however you want to term it, you then calm down, you now calm down, you now calm down. I'm kidding, you now calm down and then you begin to focus on how you're going to keep going throughout this crisis. So the first step is to do a situation analysis, all right, of what is happening. I know out there we're being told the economy is affected, businesses are affected. We know this, we are in business, we are feeling it. So the first thing you have to do is to really answer the question, what impact is COVID-19 having on my business in the short, in the medium, and in the long term? On my supply chain, on my employees, on my customers, on my cash flow, on even me, the business owner, or even us as a company. What is the impact? All right, you have to understand it from the perspective of your business. Then you also want to then look at, is it viable for the business to carry on? All right, whether partially, fully, or do you need to consider hibernating until things improve or get better? You need to think about that. Then there's risk. All right, what's the risk of carrying on and then getting an infected case? What would be the impact on the business? Would customers trust you and still come and try and patronize your business if you have a reported case, or if you had to close your business for a short period of time with a suspected case? So what is the risk of carrying on? All right, you need to look at that. So a real good analysis of the impact on your business is number one. Number two is for you to get down your support networks. So identify all the places you can go for help, whether it's advice, whether it's a guide, whether it's even financial support. Identify them. So this may be your accountant, your lawyer, your business coach or business advisor. It could be your tax advisor. It could be even institutions. In some jurisdictions, there are institutions that are actually there to help businesses through this crisis. Governments have put up a lot of support networks as well for businesses. So identify your support networks. Very important to help you in your planning, so that you know at any given point in your planning process who to go to help you to make sure that your plan is robust. All right. So your support network is your number 2 action. Number 3, after you have done that, is to brainstorm. All right. Is to brainstorm. You need to brainstorm about your business, and you start with the financials, which is the bedrock of our survival. And in the financial analysis, a very simple analysis, which is basically you want to understand your cash flow situation. All right. So you start by analyzing, what money do we have now? What invoices are out to be paid? What invoices do we still have to send out? What contracts have we agreed? How much money is in the bank account? How much money do we have in the cash reserves, if you have? So you want to know, what do we have now? Very important. All right. And then of course, following this analysis, you also want to try and do your projections. All right. But right now we want to know, what do we have now? Actuals. Okay. Then you want to do an expense audit as well to see what your essential and non-essential expenses are. And really you want to focus on your essential expenses. So that may be things like payroll, maybe things like office rent, and so on. You will know when you do the analysis what's your core and what's your non-core. And really you want to focus on the core, because the core is kind of what you need to do, you need to spend in order to run your business. And the non-core are things like, yes, you can spend, but they don't impact the business too much if you put a hold or a freeze on them. So you need to understand your expenses, and then you need to compare your expenses to your income. So by this I mean, when you look at your expenses and you look at the income you actually have now, how long can you keep running the business? Would you be able to pay your expenses every month? For how long? Is it the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? How long? If, let's say, the money you have, you didn't make any more sales, how long would your business go? All right. And then if you did make sales, looking at your projections, how long can the business keep going? These are the questions you're trying to answer. From this exercise, you will know whether you're cash positive or cash negative, or another way put, if your cash flow is positive or your cash flow is negative. If you're cash positive, it means that it's a good position to be in. It means you'll be able to determine, how long you can go. You've got some money to help you to actually keep the business going. You've got some money to actually start implementing tactics to keep the business going. All right. So that's a positive position to be in. And then of course, if you have good projections, then that's a good position. If you're cash negative, that does not mean it's the end of the world or your business can't go on. It just means you have to be more brutal, more harsher in the decisions that you have to make. You've got to take more harder decisions. You've got to focus on bringing cash into the business. You've got to focus on lean management, which means you've got to really cut on expenses and be very, very regimented on keeping costs down by bringing money into the business. You may also have to consider injecting some of your own money into the business if you have reserves, or maybe even going to do additional business elsewhere if you have other businesses or other activities to bring money into the business. You can also consider tapping into stimulus packages that the governments are offering out there to all help you to bring some more money into the business to try and move from a cash negative to a cash positive. But if that's not possible, i.e. bringing in external income, and you have to work with what you've got, then as I said, you're going to have to be very brutal, very hard on cutting expenses, making very difficult decisions in order to keep going. And of course, the focus will be to bring in cash. All right. So once we've done our financials and we have a good understanding, fantastic. It really, really sets the foundation for the next actions we have to take. The second one you want to do is an operational analysis. Okay. What's happening with your supply chain? How are you getting things to customers? How are you receiving products if you're selling products? What's happening in the supply chain? You need to address those issues. what's happening in the work environment. Do you have some employees working from home, some employees working on site? What are the implications there? How are you coping? Resources to keep going, resources to even support remote working, resources to even deal with your supply chain. So you got to do like a whole operational analysis as well of the situation. Then the next thing is to do a communications plan. All right, this communication plan is for all your stakeholders, including your employees, so that you are clear at giving points as you go along when and how you're communicating with your customers, your employees, and other stakeholders. This is very, very important. When it comes to the employee communication, for me, my advice is be very transparent. For me, I've tried to be very, very transparent with my staff, and it's been very good. They've been very supportive, and I feel being transparent with them also makes us, stronger as a team, because we know what the agenda is. So for me, transparency in as far as possible is a really good strategy right now with your employees, especially when you have to vary contracts and you have to make changes and you need their buy-in. All right, so that's very important. Also with your customers, it's amazing. A lot of customers have been very supportive to the businesses that they patronize, and that's because a lot of these businesses have engaged and they have been very open with them in how they're coping with the crisis. So a really good communication plan is very important, and then of course to your other stakeholders. Then the next one is your employee strategy. Okay, now this is quite a big area, but right now I'm just going to focus on you focusing on the key critical staff that you need to help you through the crisis into the new normal. Please don't just focus on surviving the crisis, because you're surviving the crisis to move into a new normal. So you need to have staff that can work with you through the crisis into that new stage. And then for the non-essential, non-critical staff, now it doesn't mean they're not important. It just means right now you feel these particular roles, these particular people are what I need to help me through. And your non-core staff may even be people who can come in later on as we're coming out of this. But you have to do that analysis, okay? And if it turns out you have to, because we're cutting costs, or because of part of this our survival plan, then with your non-essential staff, you've got to handle it very well, all right? Because it's likely you may have to lay some people off or make people redundant and so on. So then you have to handle that well. But the main important thing with your employee strategy is communication, and then identifying your critical staff that you are going to be using to get yourself through the situation into the new normal, and then also how you handle your non-essential staff. Then the next one is, of course, your customer strategy. So we've already said it's good to communicate with them. Here you want to really rein in to let them know how you're coping with COVID-19, how you intend to serve them, how you intend to keep them safe, and how you're going to communicate with them. Very, very important for your customer strategy, that you really, really think from the perspective of your customers. Most customers right now, their biggest anxiety is safety. They do want to patronize services and products, but they're scared. So you really have to focus in on how you reassure them that you've put their safety into your plans, and it's very safe for them to patronize your services or your products. So the customer strategy is very important. Then lastly, on this brainstorm, and of course there are other factors you can brainstorm, I'm just trying to key in on the key ones, is health and safety policy overall for your customers, for your employees. Very, very important. Now, before you can do a health and safety policy, you do need to do a risk assessment, and really the risk assessment is focusing on the risk of COVID in your business in terms of spread. Okay, so how are you going to stop spread? How are you going to keep your customers and your employees safe? What preventative measures are you going to put in addition to what we already know? In terms of social distancing in a work environment, in terms of hand washing, in terms of disinfecting common areas. You need a plan, and you have to take each area of your business in this risk assessment and identify the risks in each area, and then you know what solutions you need to put on there. Health and safety policy is very important. I think you also need to have a strategy for dealing with difficult customers. These are the customers who, for some bizarre reason, they come and they don't want to follow protocol. They don't want to wash their hands. They don't want to wear their masks. And you have to have a plan, because in those instances, the customer is not right. And if they won't follow protocol, you're going to have to tell them, unfortunately, you cannot serve them. Because you've got to think of the wider picture. You don't want to have an incident, which would be to have an infected case. So you've got to think of your workers, yourself, your business, your other customers, above 1 or 2 customers who just want to be difficult. You have to have a plan. And for me, my response to difficult customers who refuse to follow safety measures is to say, I'm sorry, we cannot serve you, because we have to look at the bigger picture to make sure everybody is safe and our businesses are safe and can continue to go. So have a plan to deal with them. So the brainstorming session is really looking at the business and really finding where are the issues, where are the pluses, where are the areas we have to improve and what we have to do. Very important, that brainstorming session. And involve your employees, involve stakeholders, get insight so that you get a really good holistic view. All right, so the next step then that you need to do is the legalities, okay? Is the legalities. That's very, very important. That's your making sure that you speak to a lawyer in relation to your contract. So this is your number 5. You speak to a lawyer regarding your contracts, okay? And here you want the lawyer to tell you about, employee contracts. Is it okay to vary? What does your contract say? Variation in the employment contract is basically saying that you go to your employees and you put a proposal out to them about the changes you want to make to their contract temporarily through the crisis. This may be things like reducing pay, reducing hours, and you want them to buy in order for you to do this. Or you go and have a conversation with them about some of the changes you have to make concerning the business, etc. And you have contracts, so maybe you've put things in your contract, you want to understand what the implications are. You may even have a force majeure in your contract. You want to find out, is that enforceable in your employment contract? So really just trying to get some advice. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. It can be someone who's very good, who's experienced in employment law, labor laws. Even like myself, I'm a consultant. There are other people, other institutions. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lawyer, but you do want to make sure that the person you deal with know what they're talking about and actually really do understand and know the law. And then you also want to find out about your contract, your commercial contracts, or even your loan contracts. And really what you're trying to find out is that, are there any early exit clauses? Are there fines and penalties for late payments? Can you defer payments? What do those contracts also say? So again, there, you could talk to a contract lawyer, or, it's again, go to some of these state institutions that can look at these contracts and help you understand them. Very important to understand your contracts. You may also want to look at things like tax incentives, tax laws. You can call your local tax office and ask them to explain. They are being very supportive at the moment, because I think they know we are really having a tough time. So if you call them or go there, they are willing to kind of explain what's available and what's not, what you need to do and what you don't need to do, so that you don't also fall short in the law. So there's also the tax element there. And then lastly, you want to know about insolvency and bankruptcy laws. I know in some countries they've even changed the laws to make it easier for companies if they have to go in for insolvency or bankruptcy. So it's important to check, just in case the worst case scenario happens. Of course, we are talking about tactics to survive. We're not talking about tactics to not survive. So, but we still have to work always as business owners. We have to look at the potential risk or the potential problem. And so I have to mention insolvency and bankruptcy in case when all else fails, you have to fall on that. So again, you want to find out what the law says and have a bit of a plan on that as well, should that become an option that you have to adopt. Okay, so that's the legality. And then the number 5 is you now need to put all this information into an action plan. All right, very, very important. This action plan, you want to look at short, medium and long-term planning. So short term may be now to the end of the year, so the next 6 months. Your medium term may be the next 12 months, and your long term may be the next 18 months. You will have to decide how you break your short, medium and long term. And within each of these plan milestones, you're going to have a set of activities that you're going to implement. So for example, you know, in your in the next quarter, you may say, okay, I'm going to reduce salaries by 30%, I'm going to freeze allowances by 50%, I'm going to lay off 3 people or 10 people. Or if you have a union, I'm going to engage the union and let them know I'm going to have to make cuts or reductions, and so on. So you have a plan of each month what you're doing within a period. Okay, in the next month, okay, we're going to remain 30%, but we're going to freeze allowances 100%, etc. So your plan is kind of broken down into phases. And a lot of the time, what I have been finding over this period is that the plan changes a lot because you're also looking at the external variables out there, which is out of your control, whether they are lockdowns, restrictions are loosened, you know, what the markets are doing, what your customers are doing. So, you know, you have a plan, but it has to be adaptable and adjustable as things change. All right. But the idea is that you have a map to work with. What I also find when you're putting together these plans, that scenario-based approach is working really well, where you just think of different scenarios and have different options depending on which scenario plays out. Okay, so you want to put this information into a plan, and I've just given you some examples of the approaches to that. All right, very important. And when you begin to execute your plan, especially the human side, if you have to lay people off or if you have to cancel contracts with suppliers, it all has impact. So just remember to be empathetic and compassionate and be quite sensitive how you handle it. I mean, handling these difficult decisions is not easy for any of us. They have to be taken because of the situation, but it doesn't mean we can't be compassionate about the way we execute or implement them. I just want to draw your attention to that. All right. Now, in the description box below, I've put a link to a downloadable template to help for those of you who need inspiration to get you started. And some of the things I've spoken about is actually in the template as well. Very simple template to get you moving. Of course, once you start, you know, you make it your own, and I'm sure you extend it to make it the document that you need it to be. But really, I'm trying to encourage you, if you don't have a plan, that the first tactic to survive is to have a plan. So I hope the template will be useful for you. Just click the link in the description box. And then if you want a bit more in-depth information for the employee strategy, OML Africa, that's my company. We've been running a COVID-19 Africa series, response to COVID-19 in the workplace. And so I've been talking to experts on different topics, and we've actually done one on talent management amid COVID-19. It's a very good webinar. I'll put the link in the description box if you want to click and listen to it. It's much longer than my video, but it's really worth it. There's lots of insights there to help you plan your strategy, including how you even go about selecting your critical and non-critical staff. And then also we had a webinar with the C-suite. That's all the CEOs and CFOs of companies, and we call that one the bottom line. Again, that one is very good. I had very good experts on that webinar who gave amazing insights. Again, if you want a bit more information than what I'm telling you, that's like an expansion of what I've just said. Again, I've put the link in the description box there. You can press the link and watch those webinars. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking about cash in and cut out. So we're talking about how to bring more cash in and really how to cut down on expenses. And then I'm going to actually really go into it a bit more nitty-gritty on some of the strategies around cutting and obviously bringing cash in. I'll share a bit more of my experiences, what I've been doing as well in my businesses, and also what I've been doing with some of my business clients, for you to get some ideas of how you can go about the real core of the plan, which is cash in and cutting down on expenses. So if you want to receive a notification when I post that video, then please click the bell and then also subscribe to my channel. If you found this video useful, do give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions please put it in the comments. If you want to even suggest topics for me to talk about, do put them in the comments box, and I will have a look at them. I also think, do also share what you've been doing. If you already have a plan, if you've been implementing some of these tactics, do also talk about it in the comments box, so that those who also find my video and listen can also read those comments and it can add some value to them. We're all in this together. We're all trying our very best, to survive COVID-19, and I truly believe with a good plan and implementation of good tactics, we can definitely survive that. So tactic number 1 is planning. So I hope that you're going to finish watching this video and start your planning. Thank you very much for spending time with me. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed myself. I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Cash in, cut out. It's been a pleasure. Stay blessed. Goodbye.